Now, having just walked up the hill, I'm kind of looking at this thinking, which way? Which way does it go? I'm going to go with it being this one, because that kind of looks like a bit of a side trail there. So let's head up here. A bit of a disclaimer. I'm not going to assume that everybody that watches my video is going to be happy and comfortable hearing about certain elements of history that are quite dark and gruesome. So if you are not one of those people, you might want to skip to the next bit. If, however, like me, you quite like all of the elements of history, even the dark stuff, then keep watching. Okay, at the risk of sounding like I'm going to enjoy the dark elements of history just a little bit too much, I'm interested in learning about the dark elements of history. I mean, I hide behind a cushion during battle scenes in movies, so you can make of that what you will. Oh! There's a sign over there that says private. Right, hang on. I have to get my bearings. So it appears to have opened up slightly. That looks like there might be a footpath there. I'm a bit confused now. Right. Yeah, let's go down there. Because we're not allowed to go that way apparently. So let's go this way. I think originally, actually, the lane probably came that way, which is the other way we were looking at just now. And then it carries on up there. And this is the way that we've just come down. So I actually discovered this lane because of a friend that I came to visit a couple of weeks ago. And when I was looking at how to get to a house, it's the first time that I'd visited, I was looking on my map and I came across the name of a very interesting church. And I thought, oh, that sounds a bit Saxon. So whilst I was here, we visited the church, and it's the same church that I'm taking you to very shortly. And when we were on our walk, she told me about this lane up the top of the hill that's called Murderer's Lane. And the way that I had it relayed to me was that once upon a time, in 1694, a gentleman was on his way to the market and he was carrying the stuff that he was going to sell, and he got set upon by a man and was murdered. And what happened was, when they found the murderer was obviously charged and was hung in a gibbet in this lane. Now, that's the basic story. I have done a bit of research since I was told the story, and I will do a voiceover for you so that my battery doesn't run out with all the filming I'm doing. But yeah, it's very interesting, and so I just thought I'd bring you here to Murderer's Lane, which is near Melbury Pub in Dorset. Most of the more lengthy accounts of this murder seem to have come from a local Dorset author and history enthusiast called Roger Guttridge. The story goes that on the 10th of November 1694, a farmer called Thomas Baker was travelling home along this lane from Dorchester Market with his earnings from his wares. He was attacked by two men who lay in wait for him. One of them threw a stone at Thomas, which hit him on the head and knocked him off the cart. Whilst the attempt was to steal Thomas's earnings, the horse apparently bolted and continued back to the farm, carrying the money with it. Thomas was later found dead, the blow having killed him. 7 years later, after a drunken argument and loud discussion of the crime in a neighbouring village pub, the two robbers were arrested and consequently charged with the murder. It's recorded that the sentence was read out as follows, and they were to be taken to the tree by which they did commit wilful murder, there to be gibbeted in chains to suffer death. And we charge that none may succour them in their need and distress, and may the Lord have mercy on your souls. Now, I'm just walking along here and I was just thinking about how places like this, where something awful's happened and then the area itself has taken on the name of that awful thing. And it must have been such a big deal for the people at the time for it to now still have that name. Potentially in localised areas where, if they hadn't seen anything like that before, it would have been really awful. Having to walk to the market or on a route that you're used to taking at the cross, the joining of roads, and seeing dead people hanging. It's just not a very nice thing to have to see, is it? It's not, and especially for little ones.
Jibbetting was the act of placing someone in an iron cage-like contraption and hanging them up on either a gallows or other man-made structure or a tree for all to see. This was mostly done after death. The person would first be executed and then their body would be displayed, often in the place where the crime was committed, although this was not always the case. We're not sure exactly when jibbetting started, but some believe it has its roots in the crucifixion of Roman times. The practice wasn't particularly common, and it was reserved for those crimes which were more heinous, although it wasn't just reserved for murder. Those guilty of treason, pirates and highwaymen were also known to have been gibbeted. It was very rare that anyone would be put in a gibbet whilst they were still alive. Even back when punishments were much more extreme, this must have been seen by most to be utterly horrific. This display was an attempt to deter others from committing the same or similar crime. What really strikes me about the name of this lane is that it is associated with the murderers. It is not named after the victim or after the act itself, but it is named in such a way that suggests it is the murderers themselves who have seared into the collective memory of the people of this community.
Right, so here is a sign that says, you can just about see it, it actually says Murderer's Lane. So yes, it needs repainting or replacing, but it definitely says Murderer's Lane. And there isn't one at the other end, it's only at this end. And then down here, so the path up there goes towards Melbury Bub, and then in a minute we're going to head down that way, down to Stockwood. Right, we are here, and it's got this gorgeous little bridge that you have to go over to access the church.
Having been pondering such a dark subject for a prolonged period of time, this little church was a very welcome sight. No more than a minute from the A37 in Stockwood lies St Edwald's, Dorset's smallest church. The church is in the care of the church's Conservation Trust, though it is still consecrated and occasional services are still held here. It measures only 30 foot by 12 foot, and it holds only 45 people at full capacity. The present church dates from the early 15th century, with the porch and the bell turret being added in 1636. This church is unique in that there are no other churches in Dorset which are dedicated to St Edwald, and actually I couldn't find any others in the British Isles at all. Kenneth Smith writes in regards to St Edwald, Edwald was the younger brother of St Edmund, the Anglian king who was murdered by the Danes in 870 at the age of 30. Edwald, it is said, was offered the crown, but he refused, hating the world because hard fortune took him and his brother. He left East Anglia and found his way to the hills of Dorset, where he settled at Cerne, near a spring called the Silver Well. Stockwood's earlier name was Stoke St Edwald, and this would suggest that the saintly Edwald had a cell here as well as at Cerne. He was regarded as a hermit of high perfection, but sadly he lived only a single year in Dorset and was buried at Cerne. Such was the regard in which he was held that the first major monastic rebuilding of Cerne in 987 provided for his reburial in the choir of the new abbey.
It's a really, really peaceful space. And it's so quiet. There's like a few houses here. I mean, Stockwood itself is just a hamlet, really. There's a few buildings outside. But it's just really peaceful. And I think with the whitewashing, I mean, I know some people love all the carvings and the decoration, you know, and all the history and stuff, and I like some of that too, but there's something really simple about this place. It doesn't feel cluttered, it's just a nice space. And yeah, it's lovely, it's really lovely. I'm just going to sit for a while. I think it's just really nice and peaceful.
As I sat for a while in prayer, the only sound I could hear was the sound of the stream outside, and it was incredibly peaceful.
Right guys, I am going to head back to the car now because I am getting cold. I really want a cup of tea and wrap my very cold fingers around a nice warm mug of tea, which would be great. It's very cold in here, and when you stop walking it's fine, but as soon as you stop it's just cold. But it is a lovely space, and I will definitely be coming back because it's not far from where I live, so yeah, it's lovely. Just love it. And I know for some people watching this, you might think, oh, it just looks really bare. And, you know, there's not a lot of kind of decorative detail, carvings and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's nice. I like it. I think sometimes when you strip everything else away, it helps you just focus. It helps you to just be still and not be distracted by anything. And I think that's what this place is what's really struck me about this place is just the simplicity of it. Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice.
I think it quite fitting that a church dedicated to a hermit who himself at one time wished to remove himself from the distractions of the world and focus more deeply on God is now itself a quiet sanctuary that invites one to do just that.
Right, I can hear that cup of tea calling my name. I can literally hear it in my head. So I am going to head off. I'm going to walk back to the car, warm up because it is getting very cold, and I will catch you guys again soon. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you have got this far and you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment, say hello. And yeah, tell me what you think of this lovely little church, which I think is lovely, but it's okay if you don't think it's lovely. Just let me know. And yeah, it's a nice way to finish off a video, I think, that at the beginning was quite dark. Going from the darkness into the light, and it is quite light in here.